Perryman says the government shutdown is impacting East Texans.
It is, and KLTV7's Michael Richardson reports tonight that's due in a large part to missed paychecks for some federal workers.
When you start to notice it is we're just now reaching the point where the first set of government paychecks would go out.
2 weeks into the government shutdown, federal employees are beginning to miss paychecks. Economist Dr. Perryman says that extends to workers in East Texas.
You have there in East Texas, for example, 5,000 or 6,000 federal employees that won't be getting a paycheck. That plays into, how much they can spend.
He says the shutdown is also making it tougher to talk with the government.
If you have any type of tax issue with the IRS where you need to talk to somebody or have some paperwork processed, all of those kinds of things are going to get delayed.
Due to delays in economic data from the shutdown, Dr. Perryman says the lack of transparency could impact investment decisions.
Just information that people need, information on imports and exports that impact a lot of businesses that use those as inputs.
Dr. Perryman says air traffic controllers have significant influence in ending the government shutdown. As more air traffic controllers go unpaid and call out of work, he says that can cause travel problems.
But whether it's the air traffic controllers or whether it's the food security network or whether it's the paperwork of processing things for people, something along the way will create enough consternation among people that that it creates pressure to get something done.
Michael Richardson, KLTV7 News.
The longest government shutdown was during President Donald Trump's first term. That one lasted over a month.